This morning I want to talk about installing virtual machines in Proxmox. So we already have a Proxmox server set up. Put in the IP address. And you have to make sure that you put in HTTPS and then :8006. Of course, it's a self-signed certificate, so a lot of the browsers will say it's entrusted. I am root. Log in. And as you can see, we already have quite a few virtual machines on here. So we can talk about clustering. We can talk about a lot of different things in Proxmox. Clustering is where you have shared storage, and you have 3 to 4 Proxmox servers. You can set up a cluster so that if one of your servers goes down, the other ones will pick up the load. But like I say, you have to have shared storage, iSCSI, NFS, something like that. And at the time, we don't have that. We just have one Proxmox server. So I'm gonna create a VM. Go here. Nodes PVE. We only have the one node. VM ID. You can change that to something else if you want to. For right now, I'm gonna do a Windows 10. You can't have any spaces in the names. Proxmox doesn't like that. It doesn't even like underscores. So I usually just do a dash. Resource pool. We have several different pools set up for different students. This admin pool is mine. Next, we're going to use a CD, DVD, disk image file, or ISO. I have that on local. We can just scroll through and find the Windows 10 and change this to Microsoft Windows. It's good. Graphics card default, SCSI controller, leave that default. I always like changing this to SATA. It's going to be stored on local LVM. We have a little over 6 terabytes available. 32 gigs is fine, especially just for testing. So if you're setting up a Windows 10 machine to test with, 32 gigs is fine. Next, we have 4 cores, 1 socket. Windows is pretty resource heavy, so I'm going to give it at least 4 gigs of RAM. If I was building this on a physical machine, if I was installing Windows 10 on a physical machine, I would want at least 8 gigs, 8192. But since it's a VM, like I say, it's just for testing, 4 gigs is plenty. Now in this machine, we have quite a few bridges. These 3, VM bridge 0, 1, and 2, these all bridge out to the classroom network. And VM bridge 5 is an internal network. And I'll show you how to use that at a later date. I'll show you how to install routers in your virtual machine server, and then set all of your virtual machines to run through that router. You can do that for several different reasons. Quality of service. If you want to set up a DHCP server, it's one of the easiest ways to do it. Just install a small pfSense router, and you can hand out DHCP to all of your VMs and keep them separate from everything else in the network. As you can see, we have quite a few VMs running. So next, and then I'm going to tell it to start after created. And you can go through and make sure that everything is as it should be as you're finishing up. So click on finish. And that was 138. There's 138 there. So you can open up the console here. I like opening up in a window. So it opens up in a whole new window. This is a fairly powerful server for what we're doing. See how many machines we have running. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 machines. And if you go back to PVE and go to summary, you can see 24 CPUs. That's 2 6 cores with hyperthreading. And then we have 125.9, actually 128 gigs of RAM. And of course, this is the hard drive space for root. This is the root file system for PVE, Proxmox virtual environment. And it shows the load average. Server loads low, memory usage not quite half. CPU usage, we're running 15%, even with all of these machines running. So not too bad for what we have. Alright, so we're to the install window. English, United States. Yes, install now. And this should run through pretty quick as well. Of course, all of these drives are platter drives, but they're in a fairly large RAID array. Next. Accept. And of course, we can't do an upgrade because there's nothing installed on the drive, so we'll do custom drive 0 unallocated. I found that with Proxmox, if you leave it set to IDE or you change it to SCSI, a lot of times Windows can't find the drivers for it. So emulating a SATA drive is the best way for us to install Windows 10. Of course, this will take a few minutes. So what kind of stuff do we have running here? So Windows 10 Pi-hole. I'll show you guys how to kind of create a Pi-hole in a later video. Pi-hole is basically a black hole for internet advertisement and malicious websites, sites that are trying to steal data from you or infect your machine. We have one running in the class, so. Alright, so this is my second video posting to YouTube. First one was VirtualBox, this is Proxmox. We're also going to go over VMware and probably Zen. Let me show you guys this really quick. XCP, NG. Not really sure. I think the server is actually off. It doesn't have just a whole lot of resources. And we'll do another video on Hyper-V. All the main machines in the school, as far as servers go, they're all on Hyper-V. And of course, if you can, as you're going through, if you wonder how much this machine's using, you can go back and look. Right now, everything's loaded into RAM because it's going through the installation process. So we're using almost all of the RAM. CPU usage is fairly high, 38%. Dropping back down now. Machine's finishing boot. Got another console there. Shows the hardware. Of course, if you want to go through and change some of this, you can. Of course, I would shut the machine down first. One of the only things I think you can change without damaging the machine or messing up the configuration is you can change the network device. So if I wanted to change this to a different bridge, I could. I really don't need to though. So, getting ready. And for us, we created different pools to keep everything separate. And it shows all the different machines that are in each pool. I have a few of my own. The Pi-hole was one I created for the class to knock out a lot of the ads. Of course, the Windows 10 I created is there as well this morning. And being seeing as how I'm root, I can create a VM in pretty much any pool I want. But as far as the students go, students are locked down to each individual pool that they're assigned to. I do that so that you have certain numbers of students or faculty, however you want to look at it, or employees who have access to a certain number of virtual machines. So if something happens to one, it gets destroyed or something gets changed about it or it gets deleted, then there's only a handful of people to talk to if something happens to it. So if everyone had root access, then everyone would be able to see all of the different machines. So if I log in as one of the students, then you will only be able to see the machines that are in your pool. You won't see the rest of them, so you won't even know they even exist. Like I say, we have quite a few. But really and truly, guys, that's all there is to it. Once this finishes getting ready, then I'll just go through the regular setup process. For installing Windows 10, answer some security questions, whether it's personal or for business use, and we'll be done. All right, thank you guys. That's all I've got.